Thank you very much for coming. Good morning, everybody. My name is Vishnu. I'll be your host for today. We have our DSP director, Onai-san is here, and we are very happy to have Dr. Habib here, Deputy Chief Strategy Officer for Saraya from Saudi. Plus, there are other dignitaries here. Ibrahim is here. Thank you very much for coming, and Bernard will moderate the panel later. We have a packed agenda. Can I please request the opening remarks, please? Please.
Thank you. Abraham Habib, colleagues and friends. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. Standards development and capacity building will be a foundational ITU contribution to global AI governance. We must ensure that the AI revolution leaves no one behind. This workshop takes aim at exactly this challenge. My understanding. Capacity to take advantage of AI barriers widely, but understanding where we are and where we need to go is essential to planning our journeys to AI readiness. Standards framework to evaluate how AI ready we are to help AI stakeholders to set the right priorities and take action to achieve them. Let me recognize and commend the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for your strong support to this project. I also applaud everyone contributing. It's a project with a great promise, and I wish you every success.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Can I please?
Thank you. On behalf of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, I'm very pleased to be with you all here today. In Saudi, we are fortunate to receive the highest level of support from His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman, chairing the Saudi Data and AI Authority. And we are working closely with multiple agencies, one of which is the ITU and the standards and Saudi authorities as well. We look at standards as one of the main tools to help regulate AI in Saudi Arabia. And we would like to work closely with all the standard agencies to support that effort. We believe also standard will raise the maturity and the readiness in the field, and also prepare the companies to be more safe, better quality of services, and trustworthiness. So I hope this session today will help us reach more consensus and understand more about what countries are doing and how we are using standards and readiness assessment to improve the maturity in Saudi Arabia.
Thank you very much. So now we will have the agenda for today, which is can you put it up? Thank you. So we will have some case studies to start with. I would like to introduce the activities which we have been, let me say, burning our midnight oil for the last few months or so. And then let's look at some of the interesting case studies that we have been working upon. Then we have our partners who will talk to you. And let's hear from the global voices and what has been related fields in the readiness. And then we will also look at a very interesting panel. We would like to hear your voices as well. So please ask questions, engage us, and we are ready to go. Let's see how the slides are coming out. This has to come. No. That's not coming.
Because we are talking about AI, usually screen. Need to do AI for projectors.
No.
Function F5.
Function F5.
Windows P.
No.
Control Alt Delete.
Yes. Nice.
So we have a technical issue. The computer is frozen.
Too cold, I guess. For it.
Yeah.
This one with the overlay.
So let me entertain you till that. I'm a very bad entertainer, but let me let me give you a brief background about what we did, what is going to come on the screen. So we worked on the what we call as the framework for readiness, and this framework we have built. Let me say bottom up. You will see the other kinds of approaches presented, but this one we have built bottom up. We have kind of brought together the experiences from different activities which we have done over, let's say, 5 to 6 years in the field of AI and machine learning, and collated these experiences, which personally myself has been very happy to be part of, but also some of my colleagues who have been working upon this field as well. That is the first part which you will see when the slides are coming up. The second part which you will see is on a set of use cases and case studies. So these case studies have been coming to us from our pre-standards activities, focus groups, and other ITU pre-standard activities, as well as we had a call for use cases, and these were submitted to us on applications of AI for sustainable development goals over the last 4 months, 5 months or so. We had a huge set of use cases submitted to us, around 200 plus use cases submitted to us. And we went through each of them with a fine-tooth comb, and that has been collated. That experience is going to come to you today. Unfortunately, I'm supposed to get 15 minutes today. So you will get three case studies from that. I believe one is from Malaysia, one is from India, and another is from Turkey. These are the kind of use case studies that you will see today. And then, based on these foundations, you're going to see a bubble diagram, a very beautiful bubble diagram, if it happens. So that one is going to show you the framework of what we have built based on these experiences and studies. Now, then you're going to ask me what we are going to do with it. So then I'm going to explain to you that we are going to have the summit in Riyadh in September. So what are we going to do for that particular summit? That is the next step, immediate next steps that we will put together. Again, I'm a very practical person. So our recommendations for the next steps are going to be very practical. what are the hands-on activities, plus what are the learnings that we can build based upon these experiences, frameworks, and the activities that we have done so far is what you will see. Okay, so I hope things come up now. Let's see how it goes. That is the brief outline of the slides that I explained to you. Let's wait for it. So the wow, okay. No.
Take that.
Yeah. Don't do anything.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, I'm done with the presentation, but let me just do it again. Thanks again. Yeah. So yeah, the background is what I explained just now. Let's look at the case studies and the framework, the live experiment that we are trying to propose, and what the immediate next steps are. So as I told you, maybe last 6 years, 5 years, we have been working upon many aspects of machine learning, AI, pre-standards activities as part of our focus groups and so on. We have published set of use cases. We have published recommendations. We have engaged with academia around the world to do these mentoring projects. I'm very fortunate to be one of the mentors. And we have what we call as a fundamental document for machine learning in future networks that we call as Y.3172. Now, following that, we also did some work on autonomous networks, and that's what you see here. There is a framework corresponding to it, and there is a recommendation corresponding to it, Y.3061. And we also did a proof of concept activity engaging with more than 100 participants over maybe 3 years or so. Apart from that, we have been running machine learning challenges, collating data sets from around the world, and also from industry partners, academia partners, and so on from around the world. And this has been very successful for us. We have data sets, we have solutions, we have papers, we have standards coming out of this work. We are very proud to say that there are many domains. You see, there is IoT related, there is 5G, geospatial, energy, climate change, and many others. As I told you, there are open data sets that we use as enablers for standards and pre-standards, and some of these are here. There is good amount of money on the table as well. If you would like to get some of this, you should go to our websites and check out. There is a Rice University currently running. This is from US. There is a UN Thinkathon and TinyML. We had a workshop as well in this summit. Our partners, we are not alone. We have a bunch of partners. As you see here, you have all well-known and from all around the world. You see there are a bunch of partners who stand with us and they provide us with guidance, data, solutions, and whatever. So we also had a bunch of workshops in this summit. This is the learnings which hit me personally, that we will use as a background for our case studies and solutions today. So you hear that there is a lot of focus was on digital twins, on how to apply this on composability. There are not only workout gyms, apparently there are gyms for AI models as well. So those are the gyms that we talked about, AI model trainings. Network creation, apart from optimizations, there is also talk about network creation, edge intelligence, green AI, design frameworks, cyber protection, and the generative urban infrastructure for smart mobility, and open source for large language models. These are some of the hashtags that we picked up from our workshops. So we have several activities. We curate the ML5G Discovery series of webinars with experts. I think some of you have been part of it as well. We have a ITU journal, which we bang upon for papers and publications. So from this, what do we summarize our goals to be? We summarize our goals to be that we would like to look at clear metrics for measuring readiness in terms of enabling factors. This is one of our primary learnings, which we built out of these foundations. How do we empower organizations, regions, and countries to evaluate the preparedness to benefit from AI effectively? Benefit from AI. Now, having said this, there are risk factors. How do we evaluate these risk factors? How do we simulate these scenarios to make informed decisions by policymakers? That's the third part. But we also understand regional flavor. There are specific preferences, customizations to be applied in different parts of the world, and that's the fourth part. So this is the first case study. I told you I promised 3 case studies. This is the first among them. This has been submitted to us from Malaysia, and there are several aspects to it. I will quickly summarize them. The numbers that you see there, these are related to the framework. Let's just hold on to the numbers, but this is basically for IoT-based environment monitoring based on standard indices. And that's a case study which has been submitted to us based on the use case. So the main aspects of this case study is that the deployment capability along with infrastructure is an important part. In this particular case, there are ground truth, data ground truth, which is required. That's from meteorological department that is required. And that's what the learning which is coming out of this. The communication technology is part of the infrastructure. Nothing happens without it. LoRa-based IoT system is what is used here. Stakeholders buy-in enabled by standards is important because that gives us a factor of trust. And that's what we bring in as ITU. This is where we have applications of indexes, codes, the baseline levels of levels collections. Data collection and validation in sandbox is another part which talks about protocols, testing, validations. The second thing is there are two countries where we have looked at similar use cases. The first one is India and second one is UAE. This talks about governance, how to bring front-end a portal, a utility, an app which will give accessibility to government services. That means that you need multimodal data, which will bring back-end data aggregation to populations, to citizens. That's what it means. So in this particular case, you need access to research. It's not only, there is a bunch of technical terms on the right side, but you see there is access to research, deployment capabilities, stakeholders buy-in, and developer ecosystem, which is created by open source. So it's not only an individual service that we are providing, but also to enable API-based and SDK-based developer ecosystem, which we need to enable. The third and last is from Istanbul Technical University and Tuksal. They have talked about availability of open data, which comes from drone-mounted cameras, which helps in locating humans in case of disasters. And the second one is, again, access to research for models which are built based on research, but applied for this kind of practical problems. And then we comes about another factor which reappears here is deployment capability with ground stations and simulation approaches for learning, different types of learning. So now, if I put these numbers together, then we come up with this, what we call as ITU AI for Good Infinity framework. This is what we curate out of all these case studies and use cases and all the midnight oil that we have burned so far. This is the boiled down distilled version of learnings. The first one you can see is open code, because the case studies talk to you about open source, SDKs, APIs, whatever, but we put it as open source code. The second part is open research, which the case studies talked about machine learning models, RAG-based learnings, fine tunings approaches, but here we put it as simply as open research. I talked to you about trust standards, the stakeholder buy-in, etc., as part of case studies, but here we put it as trust and standards. I told you about evaluation, validation of use cases, but here we put it as simply as sandbox and test space. I talked to you about deployment support, front end, etc., but here I just simply put it as deployment support. And of course, open data curated and published as part of machine learning challenges and use cases, but here we just put it as open data. That's the framework. So the next steps for each of the case studies, based on the case studies, we look at enabling this. What would you do with this framework? Practically, what is applicable? First one is an open source agent bank. What do we do with open source? There's a lot of ways in which you can apply open source, but development of open source in the context of machine learning, we think that it is possible to make action-based decisions with these agents. So open agents bank, where you can deposit these agents and withdraw these agents. That's what we think. We think that this is a good way to look at practical, applicable open source where you can apply it to these case studies that we have analyzed. Test suite bank. This helps you to basically deposit and withdraw test suits. That means that in the sandbox, you're able to validate, as well as you can look at other people's validations in the context of use case studies and case studies that we have seen. Standards. Let's not forget that we are in ITU. So basically standard Q&A banks where you are able to ask questions, get relevant answers in the context of these use cases. That's the standard question answer bank. So what are these immediate next steps? Let's not forget the Global AI Summit, September 10th to 12th. Please mark your calendars. That's in Riyadh. We have put these bubbles together. There's the immediate next steps. We look at creating these banks. Please deposit your data, test tubes, question answers, whatever. We already have. I mean, we already have data. We already have test suits. We already have standards. But what do we create a report for? We would like to look at the prediction accuracy for specific use cases. For example, traffic accidents. You will hear a lot about traffic safety and transportation safety today. That is one of the use cases we would like to focus upon for Riyadh. And another thing is the analyzing these patterns, regional sensitivity, sensitivity to regional traffic patterns, and create this dashboard so that we can effectively look at measuring and projecting this in the context of specific use cases. So with that, thank you very much. This is our next immediate next steps in the context of this framework, and that's what we will engage our partners with. Let's hear questions. Let's hear other viewpoints, and we have partners today who will present complementary approaches. Thank you very much. So I think, can I, sorry. Good. Okay. So can I call upon our partners from KSA who's going to present the case studies? Who's
we will present a case study with Mr. Ibrahim.
We'll highlight some use cases in
Absolutely.
the panel.
do we have your, do you want to use slides, or you can just talk maybe?
It's not necessarily slides. What we can
I mean, building on a lot of what's there. Firstly, I'm very glad to be amongst all of you. And in Saudi, we have, or Sadaya was established in Saudi in the pursuit of the extracting the value of data and AI and helping potentially the elevation of quality of life and many other streams that the ambitious vision of 2030 will eventually get to. And before we get into the journey of maybe highlighting a specific use case, let me go through basically what happened, what was the landscape before and maybe after the establishment of Sadaya. So before Sadaya, of course, there was always reliance on data and AI that was scattered amongst different government agencies and within the private sector from different companies as well. However, there was a challenge that persists at the time because data was highly scattered amongst different government entities. So you have government entities that are in relation to education, they have their own data systems, their own data sets, and they try to support decision makers using whatever they have to highlight potential fixes or corrections or policies that can derive better decisions within that merit. However, there was no central view of different data sets from different government entities, and hence there was the establishment of the National Data Bank, which is NDB, which is mandated to host all government data sets, including government that are associated with education, labor market, tourism, cars, and whatsoever. And this brings a very important aspect of being able to access such data and such data sets will highly support decision makers in presenting optionality space that is better or way better than what was the case before that, before the establishing of NDB. Now, having that view or that central view, this allowed us to do many things. One of which it exposed what we know of the data and what we actually miss out of the data. So that's a very important aspect of understanding what we are missing, not necessarily what we have. And that always that has helped in the establishing of also the national program for data quality, which is also mandated to highlight these gaps in the data sets that are existing nowadays in the government entities, and hence take this further to establish corrective measures with alliance with the associated stakeholders from government entities. So if there's a gap, and so there is a value missing, there's a gap, there's a value missing that we cannot rely on AI and data to support decision makers and then elevate the quality of life, etc. So if there is a gap that is understood from these different data sets, it is within the program it's highlighted and it's discussed in different workshops with the stakeholders, and then highlighting the essence of how these data sets or how this gap can be mitigated through corrective measures so that we can have further value of whatever data that there is. And building on that, building on establishing this national data bank, Sadaya also established the istishraf, which is the layer that builds on what is available in the data bank. So data bank allowed us on a national scale to have accessibility of data, to have sharing metrics of data, to have highlights of how we can further fasten the data sharing in alliance with the National Management Office or Data Management Office for the regulation of data exchange. So that's one aspect of the value chain. And the other aspect is istishraf, which builds on this. So now different decision makers in the country have various challenges in regards to whatever they are operating. So traffic safety, for example, is one major aspect where data can be of high support, and developing data models and AI models can highly help in mitigating a lot of traffic accidents, a lot of fatalities or mortalities that come from traffic accidents. For example, in Saudi, there was a committee that was established from different ministerial stakeholders, and its mandate, it highlights looking at the mortality rates that come from traffic accidents, and pushing the different stakeholders to design corrective measures to lower the mortality rates by the aligned programs within the Vision 2030 to get it up to 50% lower than what it is from the baseline. And one major aspect that they came to us with was, where do we go? What are our priorities? What can we do? What can be done anyways? And there are many metrics where you can go around trying to understand this problem and then directing different measures. However, what we did to support this means we developed so what we have access to is a lot of data that goes by demographics, understanding the traffic accident themselves, where they happen, what kind of road, and what was the, let's say, what happened, what is the result of that accident, and where did it go and whatnot. And having that understanding, we developed the heat map of the danger zones in Saudi. So what are the danger zones in Saudi, and what can be extracted as information of what could be the corrective measures to support the committee's further work to align with different stakeholders to go and correct. Because mortalities of traffic accidents can happen from different aspects of things. It could be behavioral aspect, it could be something that it aligns with a road network design that needs the transportation to be involved, that needs the municipality to be involved. Maybe just a small nudging plate that goes before the place and then afterwards, just to highlight the importance of behavioral change and what it could do to support the mortality rates. And one challenge that the committee had before then was the standard that the WHO goes by. And the WHO highlights or tracks the mortality rates that come from traffic accidents, and this metric or this operating model and framework highly supported the committee's reporting to the WHO by highlighting the methodologies behind how was it established and how the mortality rates were captured, giving the available data sets that were there and the analytical capabilities that we have at SEDAI to support the decision making. This briefly, in essence, highlights the whole value chain of why the strong adoption of AI and data-based solutions to which they can support elevating quality of life and basically saving lives in this use case. So that's in essence maybe how this value chain is established for supporting decision makers.
Absolutely, thank you very much, Brian.
Thanks to you.
That's just a very practical use case, a very important use case as well for us. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Any questions? Any one question? Can we take one question? Is there any specific questions? If not, let me ask something. What is your evaluation of the results of this project and initiatives, if at all? Are you in a phase where you are able to see quantitative improvements somewhere? Are you able to see reduction? Are you able to see improvements, please?
Okay. Well, I'll answer this, but before maybe I highlight one thing. In the pursuit of doing this, we exposed a lot of gaps in place. And those gaps cannot be, it was very hard to see before then because you were looking at a standalone sort of one sector data. When you combined the different views from different data sets and different government entities, you were able to sort of integrate these data and understand that there is a gap here, there are anomalies there, and these could or have to take inputs to be corrected. However, it varies. So from traffic point of view, because there is maturity in the sector, there is maturity in the data capturing scheme, it is of better, let's say, position in terms of quality and quantitatively highlights whatever is happening on the ground. However, it's not the case across all sectors. And within the national program for data quality, there is a lot of work to move things further in elevating its quality and then elevating its capturing and quantitative approaches to support eventually the status quo of whatever it is we're looking at.
Absolutely. I think I completely resonate with what you're saying. And that's exactly what we have seen as well. Cross-domain alignment is the most difficult task that we have seen. That's the important gap. Gusa, please.
Really, short question. Thank you, sir, for your speech. It's actually is a really valuable initiation that you are leading the open data and something because, for example, my country, we don't have this kind of initiation. It's really valuable. But you know, when you want to create some big data for the different the use cases or the application, like we call automotive, telco, the healthcare, doesn't matter. Since we don't have any data standards, there will be some variety. So it can sometimes affect dramatically, sometimes affect slightly to the model that we're developed for the platform that we're going to integrate this model. So do you have also a roadmap or initiation for the data standardization?
Sure. So within SDAIA is of 3 arms, one of which is the National Data Management Office. And this is in regards to the regulation of data exchange. It's more of the legislation arm of SDAIA. And it goes into standardizing many aspects of how data is there and how it's captured. And it's a long journey to go because different government agencies have their own legacy systems. They have their own ways. They have relied on different metrics to capture data within their own systems. However, it's a long journey, but it is, yes, happening through INDIAMO, through the strategy of SDAIA, through the standardization within SDAIA. But we had to know sort of what is the data first. And then from there, we went through establishing these initiatives and programs to align with each sort of scope to better the value or to enhance the value of whatever data we have.
If you allow me also to add, we started the National Data Index, or we call it NODI. This National Data Index came after a long work that we established in the past 3 years and struggle that we had with the data sets from different agencies. To give an example, just to make it more less programmatic, if you have a date of birth that is different between agencies, which date of birth is the right date of birth? If you have a license ID number is different from a data set to another data set, how do you connect them together if it's for the same person? So data quality was one of the main challenges we faced. Though Saudi is very well digitized in a international perspective, but still with all this digitization, that you cannot make an inference or even that much a sense of the data set available today. Therefore, we established the index, and the index is going to be announced already last year. This year will be the first run of that index in Saudi. So that index become now will play a bigger role. All government agencies across the board will comply with that data index, and in a way we are trying to improve the maturity and improve the quality of the data from the source from each one of them. Now, there is also a lot of work in the back end with each agency to fix some of the challenges with them, and the reference data has been directed, and each agency now understand which data is supposed to be from where and where is the right reference and the point of truth for the data set. Furthermore, we also worked with Ibrahim mentioned that we have 3 main arms. The regulator, which is the National Data Management Office, that started with multiple regulation, especially in data specific, and then we're moving to also AI. Beside the index, we have the personal data protection law, PDPL, that's already enacted 2 years ago, and now it's all agencies are required to comply with. So now we are working with the data quality. We're working also with legislation. This is very similar to GDPR. Multiple data sharing and data cross-border policies are in place in order to facilitate the sharing and the support from different agencies. I know later on we'll talk about with the university as well. So even the data sharing that happens between agencies to fix some or improve some services, we're also working with universities and we're sharing data sets that used not to be available to university. The second arm is the National AI Center. Dr. Yasser is leading it. National Center already established multiple advancement programs. So, for example, diabetic retinopathy. Diabetic retinopathy today, which is a classical example of machine learning, computer vision. Now it is under clinical trial in 4 hospitals, if I'm right. We also have breast cancer screening also under national clinical trials. Those programs started again with poor data availability, first of all. Poor readiness also from agencies or hospitals. And now we work one-to-one with many of them in order to improve that and in order to build a model, local model that can cater to the kingdom. Looking into the multiple programs now, some of these data sets will find its ways to universities and to collaborators outside only the center. The center will focus on delivering this understanding and raise the maturity in the sector, in this case, healthcare, and they are working in Arabic language and large language models. They're working on energy as well, but focusing on healthcare. We are trying to raise the maturity. Now it's under clinical trial. I believe more than 400 people got pre-screened by the diabetic retinopathy model and been transferred to have further evaluation. This is out of like a couple of thousands. Therefore, we are trying to save lives and predict very important diseases within the kingdom, because we have a very high level of diabetes in Saudi Arabia, one of the highest worldwide. These type of activities now shed more light on also the standard, looking at the data, how the data will be shared, how the data will be utilized within government agency. Those hospitals use not to work together. Use not to work with also manufacturer who manufactures the testing and video machines now for retinopathy. Now all this ecosystem is coming together and working together in order to serve and implement this type of program. We look at adoption from a strategy perspective, but we look at adoption as one of the main goals. This technology promise a lot, and we can hear about the promises, but we might not see it in the ground. Today we saw the presentation, and we have a lot of challenges. We thought that AI will fix a lot of these problems unless it's implemented and unless it's adopted within these organizations. It's stay as promised. So what we are trying to do is to raise the adoption level as much as we could, working closely as a regulator and as also a first adopter or early adopter within the sector, especially government agency, and then to the private and academia at the same time.
If I may add something related to this with respect to the readiness, it's not something that you can do overnight, obviously. There's a huge investment into having the infrastructure that will allow you to build the data infrastructure and the AI on top of that. Many of the hospitals, for example, in Saudi, especially the major ones, are very well advanced in terms when it comes to digital infrastructure. So, there are few hospitals that are have achieved the highest standard when it comes to HIMSS, for example. So there are hospitals that are certified as HIMSS 7, for example, and that's the highest. There are only very few hospitals around the world that achieve that readiness. So it's a long journey, but the sooner you start, the sooner you will arrive.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, colleagues. And thank you, Dr. Habib and Ibrahim. I think the important points that we saw are really, in my opinion, well aligned. I think we heard about the deployment, importance of deployment, the data is one of our important points. We are trying to make it as practical as possible to hit the readiness levels. The way we would like to measure it is before and after. So before we apply these principles and frameworks, and after we apply these principles and frameworks. This is supposed to be a live experiment. As I told you in the beginning, we would like to work with partners. Coming to think about partners, actually, we will have very interesting presentations after the coffee break. We have right there, coffee, don't go anywhere, right there. We have, yeah, it's already logged. There are restrooms right around the corner. Thomas is here, but after the break, we will have. So after the break, we will have presentations from UNESCO. Luhi is here. Thank you very much for coming. And then we have CICT partners. Thank you very much for coming. And then we will have a very interesting panel. It's, before we hit the lunch. So let's try to come back maybe 10 minutes. Is that good enough to grab a coffee with such a short distance? Thank you.
Before we go for break, I just wanted to show one thing out of this discussion. So we have share the screen. Yes.
Minutes.
We didn't hear that. Is it?
One, two, three.
Should be one.
There's something in the background. Yeah.
It's weird. Let's do this one. I think you can see.
Oh.
Yeah.
See it there.
No.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was doing. Double screen.
Standardized.
Okay, so we have this interesting look document. That is the preliminary report for the AI readiness. We will share with our partners, SEDAIA, and also other colleagues. We have UNESCO here, CICT, so that they can give us comments. We hope to release it during the AI Summit in Saudi in September. So looking forward to more collaboration.
有微信吗？有在法国是吧？对，在法国。
20 minutes, 15 minutes. So we have 30 minutes. And we have
你是被派过来的吗？有可能现在长春团，我在看你们说熟人，
现在管 AI，
真的，有还专门管 AI 的。
对我管产权、气象和 AI。
哦，对。
我是这两个。
留
手陪着那个等着加那微信。
还有要不要一起吧？
没有，哎，跟我们这么着。
说了吗？还是怎么着？现在是没在网上。
你得发文章。
OK，那时候
2、32年，那就没过去多少。
对。小黄，你坐这儿。我们就是主要这一个状态，主要是
要求形象工程。
做什么？
看着差不多。但是那你那主要的阵地是什么呢？来，来，
可以。
Thank you。行，好。没问题，没问题。我其实已经有讲1个小时也没问题，10分钟也没问题。主要实际上我们的工具跟咱们今天的这个讨论其实不是非常一致，但是我觉得这是一个好。你们是 ASIC 的一个benchmark。对，我们可能主要看一个国家公共环境，所以说关法律啊，那个类似于这样。对。对，所以我觉得这是件好事。所以你给我发了几个问题，我觉得我回答不了，或者说我们的工作回答不了，但我觉得这是
对，
因为本身就是比如说对，而且我们没有这个 expertise， 就是实际上当我们讲一说，其实我们有项目就是说做出
打电话跟他说呗。
在 interoperability 啊 ，interoperability 或者 AI ready infrastructure 这种东西，我们还是需要。那你就培训啊，外加力量去。他带的那几个礼品，你看看他怎么弄，你帮他送还是他现在的钱？来不及了。主要一个是你们那几个领导都挺忙，所以你现在是 ITU 的，好，
我还不是 ITU 已经新做了然后呢，我就负责 AI 的。然后呢，日内瓦现在就是联合国系统，它这个人工智能治理它是一个整体，相互之间都有动态的。
我们有时候感觉不到，就是说纽约跟日内瓦大，我们有点置身。
你也知道这打法，
怎么个打法？那个日内瓦是一些机构是吧？联合国总部那儿就是。那个advisory body 是在纽约，然后你们在巴黎，我们在巴黎，然后这边是哪个队伍？主要是这边是以 IT 为主。哎，你们评估现在哪一个声音稍微大一点？谁走得快？稍微大一点。
现在谁知道呢？就看这个一直都 compact 最后能讨论成什么样。但是昨天那个秘书长的讲话，其实我觉得还挺有意思的。因为这个 compact， 我看最近新出的 revised version 出来有2个建议，一个呢是一个什么 scientific panel， 另外是 contact group。contact group。
刚才是什么呢？就是一个 member states representative。
我觉得那个东西还挺我是觉得我个人是喜欢那个东西。但是呢，昨天秘书长那个 contact group。
那个我感觉反应有点大。
对，
在那个 panel 大家觉得还可以接受，而且他们打算纳入那把机构就比如说scientific panel 后在这
协调机构里。
我在智利日那天讲，
对，
就是那个 UN system 内部的一个。
那个是另外一个，那是我们的事，那是我们的事。但是那个东西纽约现在也不太认，就是阿曼蒂不太，就是还跟我
就是这是不认识。
你
是在哪儿？
我在大理，在
UNESCO 的啊。
现在呢，就是我的理解这 ITU 实际上今年这个人工智能治理确实是日本，有点想要把这个
原来从来没有把这个原来从来没有。
对，一个是把这个 governance 拿过来，另外呢，还有一种就想要把这个 specialized agency 就纳入自己的麾下团结起来一样。然后那天呢，他不是把这个 UNESCO 的这个 ASG 还是 DSG 2个人弄在那儿
对，
有点像这个诸侯会盟推头共主一样。
那个我们 ADG 见 Dorian 开会，
跟他提了是吧？
说到一半说，哎，你出去避一下，不知道他们谈了什么，就是感觉有一
两边有个 negotiation 是吧？
对。
所以说就是有点架空周天子的那个感觉。
谈了很久
我就觉得这就是牵扯到太多政治什么的地方。但是现在 ITU 的一些叙事呢，说的是这个阿曼蒂夫去抢他的这个地盘或者不跟这个其他协调了。但是我觉得可能里边背后还有其他的原因。
但是阿曼蒂夫用了一个 narrative 在纽约，就是说 UA agency 互相打，就是说互相不需要一个高于这个一个 specialized agency 一个比较中立的一个机构去做协调组。我们现在想说的就是我们其实已经组织起来了，所以我们其实你们那个组织叫什么？UN Interagency Working Group on AI。
就是 ITU 和 UNESCO 双牵头。
双牵头。我那天那个 Thomas 和你们那边对。 在
一块儿，对，主要说的
这个是挺好的。
主要说的这个是。但是这个东西我觉得跟美国的这个治理互联网一贯思路是一样的。像这个互联网领域，它也打了半天，到最后联合国层面上也
没有一个特别
互联网
强的
机构。
对，
然后呢，它就是用这什么 IGF 啊这种东西，就是
搞一个虚化的一
就
个，
是有这么一个盛会在这儿，好，你每年就是碰一碰，它可能组织什么一个统一的各个国都认的东西没有。
我觉得也得抓住，是这种技术标准啊，
技术标准。所以这块儿其实可能 ITU 也有点发言权。
对，能强调
他们的标准是吧？
对，我们在 ITU 他一直在说100多个标准，然后我们
220个
220
100多个已经谈成了。
100多个谈成的，中国有70个。所以说，首先从数量上来看，我们先数量那个给他占着，这样他才能说他那个 ITU 吹牛嘛，然后下来就是影响力，每个标准拿出来去那个，就类似这样的，其实就去大家论的，让共识。
再强调什么互操作性啊，什么
对互操作性，
其实拿出的这些东西。
对，我觉得技术层面可能这种东西还是我们做的东西比较软。
所以我们在国内也得看这边的情况，我们到底在哪儿发力，怎么发力？那你们在这儿这个都给我们
前线
都给我们指导，
是给我们指方向。
这不是
两位联合国的领导，华为公司要长徐立辉，UNESCO
常驻任啊，这个。
你们都是国内派过来的？
我是国内派，
我是在任职的。
我也是在这边，但是我们
他在洛桑，
在洛桑是吗？
华为在洛桑办公室，
好像是当一个研究组的组长是吧？这个好像是，就主席是吧？
你说罗征啊？
罗征是跟我在一块在 SG16主席，然后我是 SG16的国内代表团组长。
现在你知道吧？他退休。
知道，他这几天一直在听会，然后他还给我反馈一些说他的感受什么的。对，
这边不是你在开那个 AI？
在开的是康菲会吗？你在哪个会场？
我就刚过来说在这边来听一听。
好，这个会场很小，就这样。
加您微信吧，请教你
啊，你们都在这边。反正是。
那边是。
academic.
Okay.就是刚开始，现在新任务就是关注 AI 这方面的事儿，还是基本就是我们在团队。我是就是中国外交部派的，主任代表团就像使馆一样。
那这边有办公室还是？
对，这边接下来有一个代表团嘛，是个副部级的，相当于副部级的使馆。对。
就是中国大使馆那个。
就是它是一个外交机构，对，它是对的，像这个大使馆平常对的是那个叫代表团，那对的就是各国的，就相当于我们这个中国政府在日本出口对所有的国际组织。
OK，那我明白了。但是到 ITU 的那边对口的，他们就是在 ITU 直接介绍的。
对，相当于接下来就是人家这个 staff， 然后呢，相当于我们呢就是中国政府的代表。
那比如说像那个 ISO 和 IEC 那个，
其实这边我们有接触，但是现在接触比较少，就是跟他主管国内主管单位。
那你们更多的就是联合国下属的那种。
联合国下属，像我是主管团组织、气象组织、人工智能，ITU有另外的人管，但我就主管人工智能这个。像更多参与的是什么联合国这个数字宪章，还有人工智能的政府间的事情在一起。 因为技术就是技术方面。
我其实相对于我们公司的人来说，没有那么接受，对，因为我们这边相当于这么理解吧，就是华为公司参加我们这些所有参加国际组织的人，一些公司口罩。
哦，
可以就这么说吧，比较好理解。
三大组织，因为我是学电气的，所以我
你知道 IEC，那
所以我就对于 IEC 这种感觉是非常神圣的。
IEC，因为其实说实话，其实现在我们都有各自的产品，但是对于华为来说呢，因为我们主业务在 ITO 嘛，所以肯定是相对多一点。现在他们出能源啊相关的，更多是 IEC 那边去做一些比较少的是 ITO。对，咱说的面太广了。
他更像偏向于他昨天那天里头，他跟你说的更多的管理方面是一个问题。
说的更多是管理体系、标准体系的建设和建设。然后呢，你这个体系建起来了，其他的标准到底怎么做，就是别人在干。大家更多的是，但当然他其实也发了很多，主要是因为他的面太广了，跟我们自己本身的工作可能没有。你像。当时最出名的那个9001的电子体系嘛，质量体系的建设，然后包括它还有像什么 Costco 的那种国家的国标准的 CMAS 啊、CMAS 那些测量体系、认证体系的体现，都是他们在做的标准。但实际上，真正的 ISO 最出名的标准，我觉得应该是什么 A4 纸标准啊、标准啊这种东西，就是你
国家名称简写。
哎，对，这种东西都是 ISO 做的，对，因为你这个咱们就是已经是日常生活中都用了，就是可能没有那么难。但实际上你要说真正的有效率，对吧？
然后他现在还提供，他说现在这个100多个小产品，对，又是 AI 的。
你看像我这个，说实话，ITO 的多了哈，它不在我这个。国内如果完成 KPI 是要我还得要。然后他们是放在了16手本来是
对啊
，AI 呀这之类的全部都跟这个，我觉得其实是有点奇怪。AI 完全我觉得单独性是没有 AI 的，但是他们当时说做无心去，就放在16组。最核心的问题是 ITO 的这些东西。
太好用。
这个标准16组你去看，他们现在所有的是跟 iPad 相关的266、267的那是没得说，对吧？人家那个确实是这一条体系做出来，那你其他的他知道它元宇宙还有所有的东西，只要不在什么在不是2080就多少呢？IETF 也有那个标准吗？非常。其实最核心的，其实对于我们来说，因为企业嘛，投入一定要有产出。就我们的要求是跟所以呢，
我有零零的。
不管怎么重要，我重要。
因为现在觉得就是
还是要就是真做这个事情。
But it seems that the bad, the finance people.
现在的那两个框架下。Anyway, question. Somebody was there. Left this representing slightly. This was amazing. But let me just left.
Yes, several emails. Yeah. No plans. Okay, it appears that we don't have to wrestle with the monitor monster just now. We are good. And can I please request Louis to please take us through the work of UNESCO? We have pleasure to have you here. Floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much. It's really a pleasure to be here. And Li Wei from UNESCO and from the ethics AI team. The reason I'm here is that we have a global normative instrument that is on the ethics for artificial intelligence. It's a voluntary instrument. It's kind of adopted by 193 members of UNESCO in 2021. That's went through a very intensive intergovernmental negotiation, and then now US was back to UNESCO last year in June. So we have 194 countries committing to its implementation. So this is the main instrument that we're following this. And of course, I mean, there are many other instruments. We have been discussed a lot about, the emergence of global regime complex of AI governance in the past few days, especially the AI for Good Summit. And then for the first time, I think we have AI Governance Day, that we have different types of stakeholders. We have different type of instrument, different type of initiatives. I think from the very beginning, when we talk about AI readiness, I think it's important to note that there's a complex regime of AI governance, the different stakeholders, different initiatives. They oftentimes overlap, but I think that by nature of what a regime complex is, the same thing when we deal with climate change, when we deal with international trade systems, that's different organizations have different entry point, and we all contribute our expertise. So, so when we say AI readiness in the UNESCO context, so actually we are looking at the broader enabling environment of artificial intelligence. So that's about the legal framework, where of the social cultural indicators. It's about the educational research, of course, that touch upon the infrastructures for data, etc. But this is not actually we are specializing into, right? So what we are trying to do through the implementation of the UNESCO recommendations, try to foster a capacity of countries in terms of how to address the issues of the artificial intelligence. So what we learn from the global regime complex of AI, it's a pity that I couldn't share with you, but you all have this in mind. I think there are a few lessons learned. One of that is that as the UN, as a organization with a universal membership and as a voluntary instrument, it's really hard to give completely the ownership to member states, to say, okay, this is my instrument, that please go ahead and implement it and report to us every 4 years, and then we will do analysis and then give you technical support, etc. So we really put a lot of efforts to develop a tool. It's called readiness assessment methodology, and trying to give a concrete well-standardized framework for them to understand where they are, right? And then to enable us to provide tailored technical support to them. And then the outcome in our experiences is to either to help them establish a national AI strategy or policy, or to revise a national AI strategy or policy, because there's also something that we're learning in the past year. Some early adopters countries of AI, that they had their national AI policies 2-3 years ago, and then now realize that many of the policy measures, they are outdated, right? Or many of the countries figure out that okay, they did put a lot of emphasis on economic development or infrastructure, but now they are thinking about governance. Then they want to strengthen this part of it, and for that, they need to understand where they are. They need to have evidence. They need to have insight. They need to have the knowledge about those aspects. So this is about the readiness assessment. So this is kind of like the macro level tool that we are trying to use for the implementation of the recommendation. Another one is called ethical impact assessment. So that's look a little bit into the details of AI projects, but of course not as technical as the standard readiness IQ's work that we are talking about. So when we look at an AI project, we look at the processes, right? Like for instance, we look at the composition of the team, right? We look at how this is from the design to the rollout of the AI application. What's the process? What's the consultation? What is the risk mitigation plan? What are these type of measures that to ensure that they can adhere to the ethical principle values and principles, etc. So how we work in its implementation. So usually we want to secure a very high key interest from countries and high level political support, especially because the experience that we have is that AI is so fragmented topic. I mean, it's reflected in the global region complex, but also the experience that we go to country and then different ministries, they say, okay, we do AI or we lead on AI. Right? Actually, they do not usually talk to each other. So that creates an issue for us. And we feel that it's really important to have a very high level political support for countries to engage for the implementation of a voluntary instrument. Not every country is like Saudi that have this high authority that have the coordination role. So I think that's the first challenge or first step that we try to do. And second, I think the readiness assessment, when you look at that on paper, it's a questionnaire, right? It's a questionnaire set of quantitative, qualitative questions across different dimensions, but in a way that it's cannot be only done by desk research, right? You can collect a lot of information, from third-party databases. We cited quite some indicators from ITU data, right? It's something that you can gather from data desk research, but we see it as an opportunity for dialogue, in a way that it's an opportunity for country to start gather together different stakeholders to say, okay, now we want to develop national AI strategy. We want to, direct the future direction of AI in my country. And what do we want to say? Or what do you want us to take into account? So I think that's the second important thing. The third thing is that our role stops by giving evidence or knowledge or insights to countries. So country has full ownership of it. And then it's their decision where they want to take it to, right? Of course, usually it's national AI strategy. Some countries take a step further to do the legislative reform, for instance, based on the recommendation of the funding of this readiness assessment. For instance, in Chile, I think earlier this year, they passed the cybersecurity bill, but because of the recommendation, based on the recommendation of our country report, and then last week or the week before, our DG visited Chile, and then together with the president, they submitted a new AI bill. So in line with the recommendation of the national report of the readiness assessment methodology. So I think our method or our tool actually addressed a few issues because when we developed it, we did a desk review of major AI indexes that exist in this world, and including, like, for instance, the government AI readiness index of Officer Insights, right? Everyone's talking about, we all know that. But we think that there are few issues that were not actually addressed by the existing tools. So that's motivate us to put together, as I described, like this methodology or this process that we are talking about. I think the first issue or first gap is that to what extent the existing readiness tools influence the policies, right? I think this is no clear linkage over there. So like, for instance, the Oxford Insight tool, of course, like people we also usually cite to it, but it creates a situation when authorities look at the ranking. Okay, I do good this year, I do better next year. How do I compare with my neighboring countries, country from the same group, etc. Then very few people understand how this index, Oxford Insight Index, was composite, right? What's the elements behind, and how this ranking or this index scoring reflects what I'm doing in specific areas. So I think that's the first thing. So we're trying to build the bridge between evidence and policy measures, policy making. And the second thing is that we find that many existing tools that do not serve developing countries well. I think that's within it's a high principle for UNESCO that we want to look at the global majority, global south, because many index put too much emphasis on the investment, for instance, or on the technological infrastructure side of it. Of course, then you invest more, then you are scoring higher. So this is another gap that we want to address. The third one is we are trying to, as a organization with universal membership, to develop something that can be comparable. Of course, then we don't want to rank them, but we want to see, okay, this is the good practices when we talk about A, B, C, D, E. Then they are from the same level of development where they're facing the same type of challenges that this can be used for your countries as well. So this is where we are. This readiness assessment tool, legal regulatory framework, social cultural dimension, economic dimension, scientific dimension, technological dimension, etc. I don't have the slides, so I cannot show you into details what are the indicators are, what the questions are, but I will leave a copy here, and it's also available online. So currently, this is a tool that we are rolling out in over 50 countries across regions. We are very keen to elaborate or expand this implementation. And I think one thing in the end of this presentation I want to mention is that we are in terms of how UNESCO position ourselves, or what is our approach to contribute to various initiatives that in this space, is that we want to contribute or participate actively into these different initiatives as much as possible. Like, for instance, you may also heard that UNDP has an AI readiness assessment as well. So they recently slightly reviewed their tool, and then we made an agreement to build things together. So they will change it to AI landscape study, and then trying to leverage the 170 countries coverage of UNDP country offices, and to try to involve UNESCO into this, and then to initiate to build the initial point for the readiness assessment methodology. And then after all, then we can work together for the capacity building, etc. Together, of course, with ITU colleagues. And a few other elements for your attention. We have a global AI ethics governance observatory that's published all the data evidence generated through this exercise. We have global forum on the AI. We're very honored to have Saudi also presented in Slovenia this year. We have a AI ethics expert without borders. I think that's kind of a innovation for UNESCO, and we built a pool of experts that can be supported by UNESCO to go to countries to answer their specific demands, right? Based on the recommendation of this readiness assessment, for instance, they say, I need an expert to help me revise my privacy law, right? But I want UNESCO to put us in contact with the expert that could provide this expertise. Then UNESCO mobilized resources to support this mission, to go to the field or to help them draft the document or to provide advices, etc. So that's where we are, and really look forward to learning more about this initiative, and also we will provide our comments to this framework and to see how to create the synergies and how to collaborate. Thank you very much.
I have one question. Okay, one question. Anybody has a question? Without me hijacking
Yes.
the question. Yeah, please.
Just a following up question about the observatory. Where is it right now, and how countries can participate in the observatory or on the advisors or experts without borders?
Great, expert without borders. So usually, so the current composition of AI expert without borders, or those local experts that were engaged to conduct the readiness assessment.
Oh, okay.
But we are trying to expand it to include different functionality. So global AI ethics observatory, it's something that we built together with Alan Turing and ITU. So we are still in process of integrating some ITU data into this. But I think the main purpose of it is to host the the result of this residence assessment, etc. But we have a place. It's called AI governance lab. There's a section of it, so we regularly update thinking pieces from invited experts, and we appreciate your contribution to that. And if we can co-publish some articles or blogs on the observatory, I think it would be very, very good to introduce this work, for instance.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, please.
Thank you for the presentation. So I'm wondering how countries involved in this assessment. I mean, the steps, the requirements.
Yes. So sorry, because there's a presentation and then maybe I missed some information that I wanted to present. Yes. So the development of this. Well, first, the readiness assessment is built on a recommendation that was intergovernmentally negotiated, very intensively negotiated process. I think this first point. Second point, when we developed these tools, we selected or we put together an expert group that were kind of nominated or recommended by member state, and then they work together to develop this tool. And at the background research of it, we launched a survey. So 80 member states are member of there's a group of friends of UNESCO recommendation and UNESCO. So they provided their feedback in terms of like what are the dimensions. Well, the dimensions already defined in the recommendation, but what type of questions, what the direction, what the purpose of this readiness assessment methodology is. So in a way that it's a member states in the loop process that they provide us the feedback and guide us actually develops tools and then now for its implementation.
Thank you very much. Let's we give the speaker a big hand, please. Can I please request? Yes, please.
That's it here.
That's the place.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I think we are benefit from AI. Yesterday evening, I put my introduction text into the GPT and ask him to refine so that I can have time to take the reception. So I think I think the final English version of the speech is quite good, and I'm very confident it is very aligned with what I want to say. So thank you very much. I come from CICT. CICT plays a very important role in the I think in two dimensions. The first one is we are playing a think tank. We provide consultant services to the government and to the industry also. And the other role is cross-sectory platform to solicit the collaboration between the value chains of the AI and the ICT sectors. We also provide testing and verification to the market. So that's why I'm here to share some of the view of the AI readiness standardization. I will use about 10 minutes to elaborate today's discussion topic from 4 points, 4 perspectives. The first one is I want to repeat the importance of the AI readiness assessment. I think it is very crucial instruments to assessing the AI development. So I think the implementation of the AI is a progressive journey. So to ensure it is success, this journey necessitates effective management. As a renowned management expert Peter Druck put it, you can't manage what you can't measure. So in the context of AI development, this implies understanding our starting point. As mentioned, Noison said in the keynote speak in the opening remarks, and we need to recognize our current position and envision our future direction also. So this necessity is very important. AI readiness, as known as somebody calls it AI maturity model. Yeah. Serves a powerful instrument. It not only facilitates a comprehensive understanding of AI that is a very profound and rapidly evolving technology, but also enables precise diagnosis of the preparation for its implementation and the effectiveness of the development application. So in this case, it's a vital tool for accurately assessing the development level of AI. That's the first thing I want to say. That's the first point. The second point is when we talk about AI readiness, especially standardization, we need to align with terminology. In this case, I think we should take a hierarchical approach when we think about the AI readiness definition and the standardization. The term AI readiness may invoke diverse expectations from among policymakers and business managers and the general public. Similarly, the perspectives and the factors to consider is very varies from different parties when assess AI readiness at different scales. For example, in the country level, region level, organization level, of most very specific business unit level among identical organization, individual organization. Hence, my second point is the necessity of a layered approach when we're thinking about the AI readiness assessment, especially for the standardization. So we need to elaborate to define when we talk about AI readiness, which level we are talking about. Yeah, I want to take two level as example. For the national policymakers are deeply invested in the development level of their country's AI adoption. They utilize this understanding to assess their global standing and to accurately identify development bottlenecks, thereby providing a significant benchmark for AI policy design and to have a guidance for the future policy making. The design of readiness indicator at this level tends to be in a macro scope vision. So, well, at the organizational level, the considerations are more macroscopic. Business managers are concerned with building AI technology capabilities, but more importantly, focus on how to convert AI into productivity and assess the return of investment, ROI. They are very concerned about the AI ROI. So therefore, AI readiness at the enterprise level needs to be account for these macro factors. Different departments within organizations such as AR, HR, finance, marketing, etc., may have distinct perspective and requirements. So I won't divide into much detail here. So in summary, my second point is that when we're discussing AI readiness, it is essential to specify the level under which we are consideration. Yeah. So the second point. The third point, I want to talk a little about the framework for national level AI readiness assessment. I think Mr. Xu just said for the UNESCO published a very good report on the international level, focus on the national level of the readiness assessment framework. I think currently OECD has published a blueprint for building national compute capacity for artificial intelligence. It's I think not UNESCO, but also OECD and other international organizations is doing this. I think I heard about the G20 and maybe some other multilateral organizations is doing similar things. So in the country level, I heard about that Chile published a Latin American's AI index, and different academy institutions such as Stanford and Oxford also published their view on the AI index or AI government AI readiness index, something like that. So this solutions share similarities, but also exhibit significant differences. As Mr. Xu said, UNESCO's readiness assessment method prioritize human rights and inclusivity in AI development and application. I'm not sure I'm right. If I'm wrong, please correct me. And OECD's blueprint emphasizes the construction of national AI infrastructure, especially for computational infrastructure and other resources. The Latin American AI index takes into account the region's unique research, industry, government, strategy, and public awareness of AI. The Stanford AI Index report aims to provide a comprehensive overview of the global AI development. And Oxford Insights focuses on assessing the government's readiness to adopt AI as an end user. So different framework have different views on the national level. So common elements across these assessment plans include the use of multi-dimensional framework, as you said, as you showed in your slides, multi-dimensional framework. I think it is a commonality, and it emphasizes on the availability, quality, and governance of data. So that is another very important common points. A focus on the readiness of technical infrastructure, and they all emphasize the importance of the formulating AI strategy that it align with the business goal, the national goals, and assessment of the availability and attractiveness of talents, literacy, a focus on governance and ethics to ensure the responsible AI deployment, and the recognition of the importance of organizational culture and change management, resilience in the application of AI technology. So AI for Good Summit, this workshop presents a valuable opportunity for us to collectively discuss the potential for further harmonization of this framework. Drawn from the insights from these studies and the practical experience of China's AI industry, our institute, China Academy of Information and Communications Technology, CICT, has also proposed a set of framework for national level AI readiness assessment. So let me introduce a little bit more about our proposal. So our proposal about the framework of AI readiness adhere to the following principles. I think firstly, the readiness assessment should contribute to building AI capacity for all, identify development bottlenecks and policy priorities issues for each countries. I think this is the aim, why we are doing this. I think the audience, the government, the policymakers want to know where is the policy needed to identify. So this approach need to aim to prevent the digital divide from evolving into a new intelligence divide. So that's the value we need to advocate in the design of this framework. Secondly, the assessment needs to be a systematic and comprehensive, holistic. It should encompass multiple crucial factors involved in AI development based on scientific research and empirical evidence case study all over the world. Yeah. So guided by this principle, we have designed our proposed readiness assessment around 4 dimensions. I think this is a preliminary proposal, like your title of this report, for your consideration. I will give you a very brief of the 4 dimensions of our index. The first one is AI policy environment. This dimension examines the strategy level, including the robustness of the strategy planning, ethical frameworks, funding mechanism for the research and development and application, and coordination agencies among the country, and the aspects of regulation and international cooperation. So this is the holistic view of the AI environment, policy environment. So this is the first dimension of the index. The second one is AI development. This dimension focuses on the infrastructure elements such as networking capabilities, efficiency of power, computing power, the quality of data resources, and circulation mechanism, data sharing mechanism, the policy to ensure a solid technical foundation. So this is the second pillar of the framework. The third pillar of the framework is AI innovative AI application. This dimension measures specific research output, innovation investment, open source ecosystem, the breadth and depth of industry applications, and attention to diversity and inclusiveness. So this is a third pillar of the framework application innovation. The last but not least one is AI literacy. This dimension emphasizes the public education and popularization, AI integration at all education stages, science, population activities, and cultivation of relevant skills in the labor market to ensure that society as a whole adapts and benefits from the development of AI. So this proposed AI readiness framework is a preliminary suggestion open for discussion for further thought. of course, the design of readiness assessment should also consider the feasibility of implementation. When we choose the index, we need to take into consider that the availability of the data required for the assessment. So yeah, okay. I will go to the last point. Yeah. So that's a preliminary framework of our AI readiness framework proposed. The last one is I want to take 1 minute to say about the enterprise level of AI readiness assessment. I think for any country, when we think about the AI adoption, the basic unit of the enterprise. So now enterprise and government departments as the end user, government is an end user also, so are keen to leverage AI technology to its potential expectation AI transformation journey. So the key consideration at this level, I think some building blocks of the index should include AI platform, efficiency, operation and maintenance, data governance, effective risk management strategy, and fostering AI proficiency among personnel and facility culture shift toward AI adoption. So because I don't have much time, I want to emphasize when we talk about AI readiness, we need to put another track on the organizational level of the readiness, AI readiness standardization. So in summary, we are in a very excited moment, and it is the final thing I want to mention is it's crucial to underscore that AI readiness framework embodies specific value and aspiration. So when crafting a readiness framework, prioritizing principle of accountability and humanity is imperative to ensure AI for good, not AI for bad. So that's all for my introduction. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Eka is actually part of the panel, so you please hang on to your questions during the panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for introducing the layered approach and the multi-dimensional framework. Can I please request Bernard to do the? Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to have you here, Bernard.
Thank you. So where should I sit?
That's right there.
Right there.
Yeah.
I'm not in the hot seat though. The panelists are.
Yeah. So can we please start the panel? The panelists, please, you can come here.
I think.
Usa, please come here.
That's Ramesh.
And Ramesh is here already.
Yes.
Ramesh, maybe, yeah. Let me move back. Asrat, you can take the front seat if you don't mind. Am I missing? Vika is right there. So thank you.
Yeah. I'm on the table. Yeah.
Right. Please, Bernard, take it away.
All right. So I know we're about 12 minutes away from lunch, so we will speed through this panel very quickly. I know we're all hungry. So we've listened to several great talks. We saw the ITU vision for the Infinity framework. Kind of sounds like Infinity Stones from the Marvel universe. But so this panel is to get some use case, get some feedback from the experts on the panel about various things about AI, connectivity, and the intersection between them. So let me start without any random order with Professor Asrat, because this is what I have in front of me. Being a fellow academic, I share your pain and your pleasure. But maybe you can give us some feedback or some interesting use cases from your side, from your academic side, especially from the local context that you work in, on how how can we make AI research more impactful? So actually will impact actual daily lives instead of just remaining on research papers. And if you can contextualize that for with some use cases, that would be great.
Thank you very much. I'm Aswad, I'm professor of university in the Java Science and Engineering University. So I and my students have been working on AI for the last year. But recently we are focusing on applicability, because previously it has been theoretical, and all those things are not going to be solving the problem just theoretically interesting. So recently we are capitalizing on the efforts of the government, where they established the Ethiopian AI Institute. So it is basically a research and development center where they are trying to establish solutions and products that are ethical and responsible for the society, solving societal problems. Plus they are having some data rules, so that how we exchange them. In addition to that, they're establishing AI policy and strategy with us. So that's very interesting, and we are using this to pinpoint identify problems. For example, we established with my students the how to identify at early stage breast cancer. So in that we have tried to use there is one hospital which is working on such area called Alert locally. So with medical staff there, with laboratory technicians, we have tried to capture images, so that we work in the lab with the medical experts, laboratory technicians. Then we brought that data image to the lab and worked on through the layers. So how to identify early, indicate, support the surgeons and other medical practitioners, so that even if they have lots of experts, there are scenarios, cases which they cannot identify some cases. So that is very interesting, and we are using that in the different applications and scenarios. The challenges we faced, lack of data is typical issue. So specifically, we can have public global data, but the context sometimes is different. For example, one of my students working in agriculture, and the scenario in Ethiopia is different. So we have to go to the rural areas to collect soil data, weather data, all those things. Local data is needed. So the other one is sub-expertise. Yes, they are young, very aggressive in capturing things, but they take time in learning by themselves. So if we get support internationally, like ITU, what. I am here by the support of ITU. So this AI for Good supported me and my students in mentoring my students to catch up new technologies and platforms. So that's very helpful. And the other is, okay, we have data, then we can share it. There are data in the other countries. We have data. We have to have some data agreement modalities so that we can share and develop and learn the models better. We can have better solutions and products. So these are very important. The other thing is, if we get computing hardware, that is a problem in my country. They have data, they have the models, but they cannot, train the model, for a long period of time, because the hardware capability is not as such. We don't have, GPU and HPCs. So if we collaborate with, other countries, professors, ITU, for the data and those platforms, it will be very great. Okay, so these are the issues we are facing, and I hope.
I think they're shared among many for sure. But if you had a wishing wand and you could wish something from the ITU, put them under the microscope, what would you ask for more of support from them to help out with making the research that you do more AI ready?
More of technical support, as I say, training. Training is very critical. So there are experts who can do things just like that.
Right.
As I said, I can teach my students, mentor my students, but they take time. As I say. So the critical thing is training skill development will be very critical.
Thank you. All right, so moving along, but before maybe we get to that, because I'm an academic myself, maybe I can put my head into the ring, is that one thing that needs to be made aware to everyone is that you don't need to become a master's in AI or a PhD in AI to actually use it. You could become a practitioner level user without coding anything nowadays. So these no-code platforms, people that are working on the research side, having kind of abstract platforms where the user, the non-expert user, can interact with the best backend without knowing anything about the backend is something that's growing in importance. And this will allow for more adoption among the non-expert users, which are the majority, obviously, right? And at Chaos, we're actually doing quite a bit of that, right? So this will empower more. So you won't need maybe that much GPU hardware, maybe pay a little bit on the cloud or get ITU to pay a little bit on the cloud. You don't need much of specific knowledge in the backend, but if you want to develop the backend, you can do that too. But having a platform for any non-expert user to use your research immediately from the backend, that would help, I think, help in general. All right, moving to Jose.
Yep.
Jose. Because I looked up the pronunciation of every name. I hope the thing was correct. Okay, so Buze, of course, I apologize. I mean, when you answer, maybe you can introduce yourself a little bit, give some context, just like Professor Astrad did. So Buze, you've been a close collaborator with ITU in autonomous networks and AI native pre-standards. So based on your work that you've done, in your opinion, what is the role of AI in connectivity and applications of the future looking forward?
Yeah, actually, I'm first of all, I'm Buse, working in Turkcell, the mobile network operator in Turkey, as a research engineer. So, as you mentioned, we are in Turkcell, we are really interested in the AI application especially for the future network. So we also have a lab called the 6th Gen, and the main focus is the 6G and AI. So when we say future, I think it's right now, it's not that clear, because the future is like maybe tomorrow, because in each and every day we have a really crazy AI application that is just bringing it to the table with not just the big companies anymore, what the small startups and everything, because it's with the new LLM models, the open source model, the Gen AI and everything. It's just the feature. I don't know when is the feature, but since I am the mobile network working on the mobile network operator, for the communication, the perspective, AI is not something that seems cool, so we want to use it. It's something that we have to use it, because in the communication with the 5G, everyone knows, but beyond 5G and 6G, every generation, the end node, the data, the latency, all of the requirements that increase crazily, right? With the 6G, we are talking like the billions of devices per kilometer square. So it's crazy. So for the operator perspective, it's really hard to handle them, because if you have any experience with the communication, it's like it's something alive, really dynamic. So we need to manage and give service to the end user seamlessly. And before that, before the 5G, when we said the end user, it was us. But with the 5G and the beyond 5G and 6G, the end user is everything. These guys are end user, the computers, the watch, and especially the vertical applications, really critical, because we are talking about smart cities, right? The healthcare application, really critical. So the thing that we are talking when we say the connecting is totally changed. And with the 6G, we also want the cool phrase of the 6G is a connected intelligence. So then we don't just want to connect the devices and people, we want to also connect the intelligence. So that's why the AI will be a critical part of the next generation networks, but also the critical tool to manage and connect the this the frameworks. So it will be the one of the center technology of the feature and the mobile communication. And besides the mobile communication, just a couple of sentences, we see the AI everywhere, right? For example, the personal healthcare application. We had a pandemic, and everyone see that with this kind of catastrophic event, we need some fast solution. And this solution should not tell the people you should go to the hospitals because it creates another problems. So in the healthcare application, especially for the future pandemic-like events, really critical. And the AI, especially for the personalized healthcare services, will be one of the main technology that will help us probably.
Just out of curiosity, because I know there's some talking a little bit of research here. There has been some research on where these routers or these switches are used to do a little bit of computation to help speed up AI pipelines. Are you also thinking about that, like using the network for computation?
Yes,
as well?
yes.
Okay. Without going into too many details, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, because we are talking crazy KPIs with the 6G, right?
I can only imagine, yeah.
Yeah. So, of course, the vendors are doing great job and bringing in new kind of technologies and increase their capacity. And also they bring the different technology on the table, like the photonics, quantum, so new toys that we can play. But the mobile network operators, especially after the LTE and with the 5G, we are looking for some other services that can bring into the table and provide to the customers, not just like the SIM cards and the communication. So that's why not just Turkcell, but I know different the operator, especially in Europe, because we're close collaborators. We are trying to work on the change the architecture that can provide. We can provide the different services. So since the edge application or someone says the fog, the edge, fog and cloud, we are looking for the different opportunities that we can also be the provider. So that's why it's the common term, like the network as a service.
Yeah.
It's something that we're also working on. Yeah.
Interesting. So just to add to more of the jargon that's being flying around, so ubiquitous intelligence, and this came out from an ITU recommendation. Can you, in a few sentences, tell us about what ubiquitous intelligence is about and maybe some use cases, please?
Of course. I don't know why we prefer this word because it's really hard to pronounce it. But the ITUR's the last document. This is a really important document because we see the 6G or INT 2030 for the first time under the recommendation. So for the 6G, as I said, the 6G is the phase, the connected intelligence. So cool, but how? So right now, the ITU is suggesting that the flagship project is suggesting that the integrating the AI, not AI, integrating the intelligence into the network with a service that called the ubiquitous, I don't know why, but the ubiquitous intelligence. So it brings actually the new capacity to the network itself because we are talking the network that can evolve itself, understand the situation, updates, self-evolving networks. So it's help us, the operator or the service providers, to create more flexible and dynamic solution. And actually, in order to understand which area that we are benefit because we are not, of course, talking about the making the network all ubiquitous intelligence, probably some parts, and it will be probably dynamic in the future. So the correspondence group that we are leading, and I hope we will have a focus group on that, the AI needs it. We want to understand this under that. So we need to, work on the more investigate the use cases. Which use cases should be the primary ones that we need to dig in? And because when we talk about the ubiquitous intelligence, it's bring new capability to network itself, of course, but also it can create some new services for the time critical application and this kind of solution. So this is something that we are currently working on, and we want to, work more this topic on the focus group. I hope we will have a focus group. So looking forward to the collaborators. Please join the meeting. It's a really interesting area. And also as Turkcell, under the 6G lab, we are the working on the use cases heavily right now.
All right, thank you, Uze. Ramesh, you're another telecom expert here in the panel. Many, many years of experience in the domain, also in writing standards for the industry. So it just makes sense for you to be on the panel for AI readiness and standard development. And you're an advocate for transitioning from cloud-centric to AI-centric networks. So given your expertise, what do you think are the key aspects of integrating AI in applications and verticals for the telco domain? And how do you see these AI-centric networks evolving with time? And what kind of use cases can you give us so that you can ground these in actual examples that we can understand?
The use cases are very tricky, like she was talking about. That's always a $1 million question, what are the first use cases? But I'll talk about the technology stack. I'm Ramesh Ramanathan, and how it can help potentially do solve at least the technical requirements of the use cases, right? That's going to be out there. So 5G, as we know, was a cloud-centric network, a huge leap forward because it brought in programmability into the network. Right? And then next year, we're going to 6G now. They're going to be transition from cloud native to AI native, right? Even the notions of users are going to change, like you were talking about, right? Who is the end user? So we are looking at in these new networks, we're going to look at a lot of data, heterogeneous data, which is going to have notions of continuous learning, cooperative learning, paradigms that needs to come in to really leverage these networks and build this AI centricity. So from a requirements perspective, if you look at these new age networks, right, to enable these vertical use cases, we need to have an ability to first express the vertical use cases in a simplified form. Like you were talking about in a different context of most users are not skilled users, right? So we don't want to have a system where you need to know what is a EMBB slice, what's a URLLC, how do we specify the latency? It gets complex. So if you want the societal use cases to be expressed in human language when you want to deploy it in the network, so that's a very important requirement. And once these vertical use cases are commissioned in human language, we should be able to test it, validate it, so that we know the right capacity is there and the right SLAs can be guaranteed. And then they have to be deployed in the network and then monitored to ensure that we real-time balance the network to ensure all the required like latency, bandwidth is always met, right? So that's the autonomous part of things. And then finally, from a societal perspective, we don't want to retest these vertical use cases country to country, region to region. Can we have a catalog where we can have this certified use cases with through configuration, I can reapply across it. Like you take education, you take healthcare. We don't want every country to reinvent the wheel, right? So can we have a catalog, right? So these are the building blocks that I would say are very critical to build a network that can do these vertical use cases, right? So the intent part of it in human language, the autonomous part, and the catalog. So when you talk about the technology to enable this, right? The technology has to both ensure it's delivering on these requirements, and it also should make it practical. By practical, I mean it should not give an expertise or a cost barrier to make this stack a reality. So that's very, very important, especially considering a lot of these societal use cases are going to be in countries where we want to speed up the digital equality, right? So cost or expertise should not become a barrier. So if you look at the stack that I would say for this, at the top, we need a Gen AI-based interface where the vertical use cases can be communicated, hopefully even in multiple languages, right? Because we don't want language to be a barrier either. and then a digital twin that can take this, test and validate, create the equivalent engineering specifications so that end user doesn't worry about that, implement in the network, and then auto reconcile it so that I adjust the capacity, latency to always ensure that the technical requirements, the KPIs, QoI, quality of experience is met. So that's the autonomous part of it, through data, digital twin, and the right AI models. And then have an app store to have all these vertical use cases so they can be commissioned across the different geographies. So intent orchestration to service orchestration on the top, and then data, digital twin, and the right AI models to feed the entire closed loop operations of the network. So this is the required stack that is required. And to connect it to the topic that we're talking about today, if you were to look at this layered stack, right? And the beauty of this stack, just to also talk about it, is we can also kind of build a social twin, if I were to say, twin of twins, right? From the digital twin, I can build a social twin because with all this data, I know exactly how the vertical use cases are operating, right? That's very rich data. So with this, with my social twin, I can have a concept of social credits where, say, government agencies or individuals or corporates can sponsor these vertical use cases. So that removes the cost barrier as well, right? So with the autonomous nature, remove the technology and expertise barrier, notion of social credits removes your cost barrier, where we can have a dashboard where people can come and invest on the use cases, government can use spectrum for purpose, and this can decentralize the entire social engineering. Because for now, for example, let's say I want to contribute to rural healthcare. I don't even know where I need to start, right? But with this kind of social credits and app store, with these two concepts, anybody can get and contribute and decentralize the social engineering. And if you look at the stack from to go back to connect to the readiness part of it, the data set definitely needs to be standardized for different vertical use cases. The digital twin, what parameters you want to have the digital twin, right? Because when you talk about digital, easy to say just digital twin, right? But reality is it has to be hierarchical of digital twin, stretching from the file layer all the way up to vertical use cases. So you won't have a data overload, right? So we need to be frugal about it. So what kind of parameters you want to track in the digital twin? And then, what kind of standardization and the orchestration part of it. And the equivalent part I talked about the social credit, right? So that I'm able to have, that's a regulatory part of it, where I'm able to fund the network and make the use cases reality. And once the standardization is there, we can always have a readiness framework against the standardization to measure how ready countries are, what are the gaps, etc.
Thank you for that. But that link, what you said at the very end, links back to what was mentioned about open research, open data, and so forth. I'll link it in a second. So although we're all, I'm in academia, so of course open research is the thing. You have to make it public for it to be reproducible and all that. Open data is great, but this kind of relies on what I call, I don't know if somebody else coined this, data philanthropists. So somebody has to give it out, right? And we all know, especially on the industry side, private side, that might not be as interesting. So as a parallel to that, data markets. So treating data as a market to give incentives. So this relates to, from the telecom point of view, you guys are the operators for data going through, right? The social credits relates to this data market. There's incentives to share data with there could be bidding, and of course the quality of the data will improve if there's more incentives, of course, and the incentives don't have to be just monetary, they could be other things. So maybe a few sentences on data markets and where telecom can help with that, because you're the operator for all the data moving left and right?
See, today operators see data as an asset, right? A very key asset. So so giving it away would be like giving away money, right? So that's not going to happen. But there are two trends that will help to ease this. One is the social credit system, where you monetize sharing the data, and the other part of it is evolution of the technology itself, right? For example, recently I read a very interesting news in Romania that Orange and another local operator, they're sharing the O-RAN from Samsung. Right. So when they share, that means automatically it's one tiny baby step towards democratizing the data, right? So ultimately, over a period of time, so telecom companies will have to go towards becoming software companies, right? There's a lot of buzz about telcos becoming techcos, right? But then I think in over a period of time, that'll become a reality where it makes sense, especially from the perspective of investments, right? Because the most expensive investments are your base stations, more than the data centers, and every operator is replicating that investment. So at some point, it'll converge where operators, I think, will get together, make that a common infrastructure. And then when you have a common infrastructure, the data automatically gets democratized. And then software and telecom companies can move more towards becoming a software company, working more towards the use cases, which makes sense to them because now you can monetize the network, right? So I think that kind of collateral benefit will, over a period of time, help to open up the data.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving to our digital governance expert. So, Cheo Shenchi. Okay. So you're an expert in digital governance, and maybe you can enlighten us, because we're talking about standards, about AI readiness, and so forth. This is your bread and butter. So, in your opinion, what are the roles of member states, policymakers, and regulators in making societies, human societies, ready for AI?
It's my honor to join the discussion, and I learned a lot from all the very excellent speech. And for me, that I think that in general, the policymaker should be a gardener. So why I call it a gardener is instead of other things, because a garden with flowers or fruits, they cannot appear on its own. That means AI adoption is not an easy thing for the society, industry, and for the whole world. Things I have some investigation to some SMEs and some traditional industry like agriculture or manufacturing. And I think if you turn to AI, you need to invest a lot, but what you get back is uncertain. So, and the investment is not a very significant thing, but systematic thing. So you need to change your culture, you change your talents, you change your rules, you change your basic infrastructure, everything needs to change. So from the government, I think the first thing is to give them confidence, give them the objective, the strategy, let the leaders of the enterprises or the companies know, yes, AI will benefit them, not only bring some good for SDGs, some very big objective, but as meanwhile, they will earn, they will get more back, and they will get a higher salary. So that is very, very important for the industry. This is the first point. And second one is, I think since we are talking about the framework of the readiness, and there are some really factors the government need to do. And the first one is the strategy I have told about. And when we talk about strategy, it's two sides. We need to put equal importance on development and safety. So at the beginning, AI is really different, like 5G or other emerging technologies. AI is something at the beginning together with the risk. So the government provide the strategy should have the development part and the safety part. And the safety part maybe it's ambiguous for us to understand what's the exact law for that, but we can provide some principles like ethical principles and some risks, what will happen, and to give them some examples. That's very, very critical. And the second one is maybe what we have missed for our discussion is the infrastructure. Yes, we have done some investigation for this company, and they said yes, when we turn into AI, we will meet the overload of the infrastructure from the electricity to the network, and the network needs to especially the computing capacity, they need to reallocate their resources. So the infrastructure is very, very important, but cannot only depend on the companies. Infrastructure is something should be provided by the government. So the government need to provide something, if they want to grow a plant of AI, they need the seed. They need the seed. They are very easy to get, and they are affordable. So it's very critical to the small companies and to the developing countries. So what we talk about, the very affordable network, they are still critical. And the open source, the open coding, the open means they're free. So they're also very, very important part what the government should do. And third one is a lot of experts has mentioned about the data. So data in China that we have some try. I think data is very, China has a lot of amount of data, but for the data sets can use for AI, not that much. Since data is not, how to say, a resource you can use directly for AI. You need to make it usable. So this is allowed your arrangement for your legal system and arrangement and also have the data supply chain. Things we sometimes we neglect. There are very, very important companies like the data annotation or data review. They have done a lot of things, even they are not a typical AI company. So how to build this long supply chain of the data is very, very critical. And for the government, I think we need to pay attention to three things. One is the data security and the privacy. The second one is the data quality and the consistency. Yes, consistency make the data usable. So all the standards we developed, that is to promote the quality of the data and to make the consistency of different types of the data. The third one, and is very important, is the right of data. Is who own the data and who use the data. Data is not something like our laptop or our chair, and it is something very difficult to have a definition from the law. But we have to try something to give some solutions. So in China, in 2002, December, I remember, we carry out a kind of policy. The policy is to promote the data flow or the data open. And we really call it the data 20 actors because this is not an official translation, right? In that policy document, we try to that name three kinds of data of the right. One is ownership, one is the usage, and one is when you want to go to data market, you need to price it or you need to give a new right of it. So it's all just in discussion because we just know data have different how to say characteristic in law. So this is the thing we need to treat very seriously. This is about data. And then other very important things is about the research or investment in AI research and the lab, to establish the lab, and also to encourage the adoption and application. And here I want to emphasize is about adoption. It's always together with the use cases or the sectors, different sectors, your transportation, your medicine, your anything. So every different, the different government partner department, like you, we are come here together, our colleagues from IIT, yes, ICT department. So some are from the transportation department. And I have heard a voice just these days that when we're talking about the digital or AI things, when we talk about transportation and AI, and all the experts in this room are from the technique instead of from the transportation or the traditional manufacturing industry. This is a problem since we need to involve all the traditional industry involved into all the discussion and all the adoption and let them to make the policies how to adopt this AI in their own sectors. This is matters very important. And the last one is talent, including the education, employment, we have talked a lot. And the last thing is about the international cooperation. Yes, international cooperation is critical important things. When we're in China, we just say, we just see different uses and the demands from the market. But when we go out, we see, oh, in other parts of the country, they have other demands. They maybe not need that high level AI system, but they need a kind of usable AI system or some very, very critical demands. We need to understand what their demands, and we can provide our, we can have some kind of cooperation. I think this is very critical. And also we heard a lot from ITU, UNESCO, from the international organizations. They give us a lot of knowledge about it. So international cooperation, I think, is critical. So I really appreciate all this discussion and the panel and all the summit. I hope to attend here every year.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
I like the example that you, with the analogy to a garden. But in the same way that there's flowers and nice things in gardens, there's also weeds. So AI weeds, these are things that we want to remove, right? So governance, I'm guessing, also includes finding bad actors and removing them. So does AI have a role in finding AI weeds and then rooting them out? So like using AI for governance, right? So like finding, I know there's examples of like, for example, agencies in the US that maintain security, like for driving on the roads, like you can imagine AI trying to find adversarial attacks to these AI systems that are trying to be deployed on the road and so forth. So in the same way that there's good actors in the AI sphere, there's bad actors. And so I'm guessing governance will have to touch upon that too. And maybe AI has a role to play. What's your opinion about that?
Actually, I didn't think about it before. And yes, the bad side, the good side and the bad side, they are come together. And first thing is I have talked about, we need to put it in mind at the first time when we adopt AI. This is very important. Second one is, I think we need to give some space for the innovation, like the sandbox, something like that. Because in Beijing, we just launched a AI sandbox, just April, I think this year. That sandbox is to solve the problem like the data who provide and the data who use. Since there's some copyright about the data set, I don't know whether we use this data set. Sometimes I don't know what I get. It did violate the law, especially for the data set. So that sandbox just gave us principles like, if you are informed, then you remove your result. That is okay, and you are not violate the law. So this like some the right flag principle which we use to, we talk about the platform's responsibility in the housing information. So I think that kind of sandbox are very critical, and to especially for what we have no idea where the risks are and where the opportunities are. So the sandbox, maybe in traditional, we're thinking about the sandbox is a technical sandbox. But I think the most important is there is a rules or laws sandbox. And for the industry to evolve.
Thank you. I think Abdurrahman was also on the panel, sitting among the crowd. So I know that you care a lot about the IT, right? Which is not an Apple product, but it is the International Center for AI Research and Ethics, ILBIA, was recently granted the category 2 from UNESCO. Very recently. So maybe you can talk to us a little bit about that and how that loops back into AI readiness and Saudi Arabia specifically.
Thank you very much, Bernard. First, for the people who were with us earlier, I was talking about Sadaya. I'm wearing a different hat now. In Sadaya, we thought Saudi is doing some good work in different areas, and we would like to share more with the international community as well. While our role in Sadaya was focused locally and on the national level, so we proposed to have an international center for artificial intelligence with the UNESCO, and we were granted category 2 centers focused on AI ethics. That was in November last year. The center will focus on 4 main areas. Research and development support. So we will not do the research ourselves, but we will try to spark different programs in the region and globally on AI ethics and how can we support that. We will also focus on capacity building and do different programs. I think we already started with Women Elevate, which got an WSIS award this year for one of the main programs that works in bridging the diversity gap. We were fortunate in Saudi Arabia that we have a really high representation of women in AI. To give an example, in our team in the National Center for Artificial Intelligence, we do have more than 50% of the team are women. Just not the case in many other countries. So we built a program to educate or train 25,000 ladies from around the world in partnership with Google on Google Cloud, more specifically on AI programs. Hopefully they will become professional in the area and they will get into the digital economy with a hyperscaler like Google. So we're hoping to expand this program. Then also we'll work on recommendation or policy recommendation supports. And as you mentioned earlier, it's easier said than done in many cases. It's easier said than done having a garden and having all the flowers, but it's not easy to do all the procedures and following up with those flowers and in order to get the fruits at the end. Therefore, we also worked with, of course, with UNESCO. We did a couple of workshops for the Gulf countries and for Arab countries with the Arab League in order to get introduction to the RAMs that mentioned earlier today and how they can participate. And we are hoping to follow up and support the participation from the region, especially the Arab country region, in order to increase the number of countries who will participate in such initiatives. Also, we'll finally work on supporting the different governments on AI advisory and either with the policy or other programs and share what we have, not only in Saudi, but we have in the region in terms of policies and program. Always excited and happy to see the work in China, which is somewhat different than a different part of the world. So looking at it from a global perspective and seeing how different countries are doing, and then do this type of knowledge transfer with different countries' officials so they understand in more details and more depth how these policies have been applied or how the policies have been developed and how that can be transferred or be done in their country. So this is just in a nutshell how we envision working with the Eye Care Center, and I hope that it will be launched officially in September during the AI Global Summit, and we will have more announcement about different programs that I mentioned today.
And I'm sure it's open for
invitations.
Yeah, you'll formally announce that in September.
Yes.
Good. Thank you, Abdulrahman. You had an intervention before with Malik. Would you like to add any more comments, especially regarding AI readiness in the various sectors?
Yeah, I think this today, this moment is a very good starting point again. Yeah, we need more concrete, I think, roadmap and the plan, how to make this plenary. Yeah, maybe we next time we can delete the plenary pre-military. Yeah, the word and the title. Yeah, as a delegate from China, CICT is willing to participate this international collaboration, and I think through us, I think we can build a bridge to interact with the China AI community, both for the vendors and also for the end users on what they are anticipate from this kind of standardization work. So I think it is a very very good discussion. I think maybe it's time for
I know,
maybe yeah, we can
a lot into lunch.
yeah.
Continue discussions there.
Yeah.
But it's very important to follow, I mean, double down on that and emphasize the urgency of all of these things, because as we said, that what is AI future? I have a nice slide that I usually show where it's like AI is the future, and then the future is scratched out, and it's the present. Actually, I mean, if we're going to take another year or 2 or 3 to still discussing about policies and regulations, whatnot, what the academic research community is fearful of is that we're one incident away from massive regulations being put down on AI and then blunting the progress that we see right now. I'm not against any, of course, AI regulations. It's good to, because we're, as scientists, we're really good at, thinking outside the box, but we need to know where the box is and what those boundary conditions are, right? So this is just to follow up on the urgency of the matter, and I'm looking at the ITU and to lead the way here. I've served on a lot of panels before, and I know that there's like some thoughts that I've missed while I had my time to talk. If anybody wants to conclude with some extra ideas from the whole panel.
One thing I would like to mention is from our organization, Data Link side, we are very keen to work on this, contribute towards ITU. And in this regard, we want to work with multiple, one thing is we want to expand our borders, work with multiple countries, work with regulatory bodies, work with other tech organizations. So we are very open to collaboration. So we'd love to use this forum also to invite all of you and see if we can join hands to do this.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah,
Yes,
maybe
that's right.
very interesting point she raised about the garden and the weeds. But, I'm thinking we cannot compete with the modern marketers. So computational speed, learning speed, all those things. But we have to, I admire students are working on some aspect of agriculture solution for the previous I've cited. So they asked us, how does this result come about? So explainable. So we have to,
of course,
back up and see how it's working, so that what are the good parts and the bad parts. That's very important.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Just to chip in with regards to the issues of policy. Is conventional or kind of habitual of us to think when some inventions meant for the future inventions come most often ahead of regulation. So they probably get established, then the regulation gets to see the boundaries so as to create a reasonable form of control. But most often, if you just go ahead and hold on to regulation ahead of maybe these inventions, you might probably be needing some of these things in the world. But by and large, I feel there should be some sort of balance, because just like you said, we fear so seriously issues of over-regulation, because it actually retards progress in some extent. So policymakers, regulators should be mindful of this too. They're trying to do something good, but the other will be careful so you don't get to slow us down.
Time is ticking. Yes,
but how to get this report? That's just an easy question here.
Is the man?
Yes. Thomas.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I think then people can comment on this and give your feedback.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so we will share, especially for people participating in the panel today. And if there's anyone interested, we have an email that Jain can share that you can get the report, but it will be published publicly on the IT website, so anyone can access. We would like to get comments, contributions, so that we can delete preliminary and have final report, hopefully by September.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.